And Marco and I started a conversation about the possibility of doing this project at TATE, long before we knew who we would bring in as partners, about 3 years ago. I have been researching here in Trondheim with my colleagues and students since I first arrived here, which is 6 years ago. So in fact, Ntnu has been involved in this topological project for at least 6 years. In my very first year here, I was working with Simon Harvey, who's sitting at the other end of this stage, and with Florian Schneider, and we actually brought one of the steering committee members from the TATE project, Alberto Toscano, this wonderful philosopher, to Trondheim, and we had a week when we spent a whole week on topology, which was very, very intensive. And I was a real beginner at that point. But just to sort of lead up to where my own desire came from, I, as an artist, as a practitioner, as a psychoanalyst, as a philosopher, I did my PhD in philosophy and psychoanalysis, but from the perspective of being a practicing artist. My main interest is in pedagogy, psychoanalysis, art practice, all kinds of practices as technologies for transformation. So my particular interest is how to revive yourself, how to transfigure yourself, how to produce innovation in your life, how to bring some kind of newness when you're exhausted, when you feel that you're completely hemmed in. This has been my long-term interest. And the more work I did, the more I came across thinkers who were working on the same material, were using topology to help them to think this question. And so since I've been here in the theory, along with my colleagues in theory at KIT, Simon Harvey and Florian Schneider, and I can see Susan Kelly sitting at the end of the stage, and I just want to make another leap because she's here as part of the manufacturing today, the Biennale, the first Biennale of Trondheim, which is taking place this weekend. And just round about this time, I was invited by Goldsmiths to help inaugurate an MA, an experimental theory laboratory in this department called Visual Cultures. And it was on ethics and participation. And we organized this question of ethics and participation around the topology. We basically looked at thinkers from Agamben, Jacques Lacan, Alan Badiou, in relation to questions of participation and ethics from the perspective of topology. And Susan, who's here for the Biennale, worked with me on this project at Goldsmiths. So it's something that has been in the air. It's been extremely important at cutting-edge institutions, looking at questions around, is there an outside for resistance? Are we completely, is neoliberalism, which you don't, I think, suffer from in quite the way that we do in the UK and Europe, with its nihilism of economic necessity, this kind of question. Is there a way to take this on? Is there a way to deal with this in a creative way? Does one have to submit? Is there an exit? Is there an escape? Can you withdraw? Can you resist it? These kinds of questions, which artists, philosophers, practitioners of all kinds who work in an interdisciplinary way in various institutions or in non-aligned spaces are asking. They're performing this question in their practices. And many of the thinkers that we draw on, the very great thinkers who are working, use topology to help them to think what it means to be displaced, what it means to be displaced from one neighborhood and to find yourself aligned to another neighborhood. What does it mean in a space of becoming and transformation when you're struggling to navigate, to find holes and folds and breaks so that you are not isolated, that you can continue to navigate and communicate? In the space of becoming, what can you hold to? What sort of principles can you hold to? What must you be invariant? How can you be invariant in a space of becoming? Well, topology is used by many, many practitioners and thinkers to actually deal with this kind of question. The relationship of invariance to transformation. What are you near to? What do you hold to? How does the space that you find yourself occupying, how do you hold that space together? How do you find a pathway when you feel completely hemmed in? How do you open up a new space? These are ethical questions. And these questions of politics and ethics and practice are spatial, in the end, they're spatio-temporal questions, but they are a certain kind of spatial practice. I mean, a big question is space, is topology just a spatial question, or is it a particular kind of understanding of space? Well, this is something that in this collaboration between NTNU and the TATE that we will be trying to answer. So I just want to say how I came to Marco with this question, because in a way going to TATE Modern, because as Marco said, it's one of the top 10 brands in the world. I think. I don't know whether you said that. Yeah. And to use some sort of language that Franco has developed in the kind of accelerated semio capital, it's an extremely important brand. And the question of some of the questions that I've already kind of touched on would be very interesting to test at a place like TATE Modern. And so came to Marco because, first of all, to bring the extraordinary thinkers together for a prolonged period to really produce knowledge and do very deep research would involve a certain kind of platform, a certain kind of space, and a certain kind of brand. And that's why I came to Marco with the suggestion of perhaps opening up a research platform. And we started this work about 3 years ago, and we managed to put together a steering committee that had some very brilliant people. At different points we've had Alberto Toscano, and we've got some extraordinary leading mathematicians, psychoanalysts, sonic topologists.